I said that we were going to discuss Trump ordering the removal of exhibits on slavery, and today is that day. The Trump administration has ordered the removal of signs and exhibits related to slavery at multiple national parks. They have also asked park visitors to report historical information that it considers negative about Americans and pressured the Smithsonian to remove materials mentioning race, slavery, and other topics. We should totally ignore the fact that about half of the founding fathers were enslavers. We should ignore the fact that famous presidents like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, enslavers, engaged in forcible sexual relations with enslaved black women. But I digress. The National Park Service officials are broadly interpreting the directive to apply to information on racism, sexism, slavery, gay rights, or persecution of Indigenous people. And the staff at the presidential house site in Philadelphia were told that information about George Washington owning enslaved people does not comply with the policy. The site tells what it was like for those enslaved by George Washington, but it doesn't comply with the policy because it doesn't put George Washington in a good light by telling the truth. Okay, I'm sorry, I digress. Park Service officials have ordered the removal of a photograph illustrating violence against enslaved people, known as the Scourged Back, at Fort Pulaski National Monument in Georgia. At Manassas National Battlefield Park in Virginia, Trump officials have instructed park employees to take down a sign that criticizes the post Civil War Lost Cause ideology, which romanticized the Confederacy and denied slavery's central role in the conflict. It also says that enslavers were kind and enslaved people were happy. At Arlington House in Virginia, the former home of Robert E. Lee, who led the Army of Northern Virginia on the Confederate side, Trump officials have instructed park staff to stop using a booklet that was designed to teach children about slavery. Robert E. Lee was a Confederate. You know, the side that committed treason. Okay. At several other national parks, the Trump administration has ordered the removal of signs and other materials that state that the land once belonged to Native Americans. I feel like this is a guilty conscience. Like, you just want to avoid talking about the genocide of Native Americans. Again, I digress. A spokesperson for the Department of the Interior, DOI, stated that all interpretive signage in national parks was under review. The review targeted materials that disproportionately emphasize negative aspects of U.S. history or historical figures. This is according to a Park Service spokesperson. All of this is in line with the executive order Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, which Trump signed in March. The executive order states, over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. It goes on to say, under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. Because colonialism and imperialism is inherently racist, sexist, and oppressive. The order directs the Secretary of Interior to take action as appropriate and consistent with applicable law to ensure that all public monuments, memorials, statues, markers, or similar properties within the Department of Interior's jurisdiction do not contain descriptions, depictions, or other content that inappropriately disparage Americans past or living, including persons living in colonial times, and instead focus on the greatness of the achievements and progress of the American people, or with respect to natural features, the beauty, abundance, and grandeur of the American landscape. So, essentially, it's to ignore the truth and highlight the mythology surrounding the creation of the United States, ignoring the genocide of the Native Americans, the enslavement of Africans, and the massacring, is that a word? Anyways, the massacring of the Chinese on the West Coast. Okay. Additionally, the executive order took aim at the Smithsonian Institution, saying it had come under the influence of a divisive, race centered ideology. In a social media post, Trump accused the Smithsonian of focusing too much on how bad slavery was and not enough on the brightness of America. Can we be real, you and I? Can we just be honest with each other and admit that the brightness of America only applies if you're white? And it shines brighter if you're a white man.